Hey everybody, this is Rick Manning. I'm President of Americans for Limited Government. I'm here with Catherine Mortensen, who is our Vice President of Communications and the person who actually understands what's going on around here. So, wanted to just get online here with you and talk about something that's the craziest things I've ever seen. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, was sitting there and apparently wants to terminate freedom because he was attacking the freedom to basically make medical choices over your own body. In such a way that was almost unbelievable. You've got the quote sitting there on the screen, and it just was astonishing that anyone who's ever been in the public sphere, he's not just a Hollywood guy, he's former governor of California, would come up with a statement like saying, screw your freedom. I mean, oh my gosh, what the heck? It's, Catherine,
Well, over the years, I've really liked Arnold. I love when he shares his story about coming to America as a young man living in Austria, dreaming of America and achieving all of his dreams, coming here and the unique place that America is. I've always been very inspired by his story. So when I heard this morning, I mean, it was shocking to me and very upsetting because this is the reason he came to America. This is the reason people come from all over the world, is our unique brand of freedom that no one else has. And for him to say that just really threw me off. I was not expecting that from him.
Yeah, I was shocked too. One of the things, his signature lines in one of his movies was, "I'll be back." And, the question now is, why did he come back? Because if he came back to give this kind of message, the anti-freedom message, one wonders why he doesn't go back to Austria. But from a very practical perspective, this is the challenge that exists. And his argument at its core was that freedom has, and this is something I agree with, freedom entails responsibility. Freedom doesn't mean you can just run amok and you don't have responsibility. For instance, you have a freedom to own a gun. You have a responsibility not to shoot your neighbor. Okay, it's kind of, those two go hand in hand. And he tries to make that analogy. Here's the difference. While, yes, freedom has responsibilities, you also have a responsibility to be able to make choices as to what kind of medicine you're going to take based on your individual circumstance, based on what's happening with your body, based on your vulnerability. And as a result, when you have a one-size-fits-all vaccine mandate, you're effectively saying to a large number of people that your choice of whether or not this is the right medical treatment for you, the right medical procedure for you, goes out the window because the politicians in Washington, D.C. think it's the right thing to do. That's the problem.
And Rick, we know that we in this limited government space are not alone. The media wants us to think that we're some sort of fringe, but a new poll came out showing that 47% of Americans agree with us that there should not be mandates on this vaccine. So clearly, we are millions of Americans who agree like this. And we've been doing something here in just the last few days. We have an online campaign going where anyone can send a letter to their elected officials at the federal, at the state, and at the local level, urging them to oppose COVID mandates, vaccination mandates. I, in fact, sent one to all of those elected officials that represent me. And I got one back from my county supervisor. I'm here in Fairfax County, Virginia. And he told me that he would not support any kind of mandates. So I was happy to hear that. However, he closed his email to me saying he would respect if private businesses imposed mandates. And that's an area where philosophically, I'm going to respect private property rights and say, I agree, private businesses can make their own choices. But I would hope that enough of us would then choose to
the irony,
spend our money in other businesses.
The irony is the same private businesses that would make that choice are the private businesses who have been kept alive by people who have been going out and as opposed to hiding in their basements for the last year and a half.
That is a great point. And they've been kept alive by our taxpayer dollars.
Taxpayer dollars.
It's a good
You know,
point.
one of the things that I think is most people miss it because it just came out today. There's a big push on the left to have Health and Human Services, the Federal Health and Human Services Agency, to mandate to medical professionals that they get the COVID vaccine. Now, I'm old enough to remember way back when they said, trust the medical professionals. They're the experts on this. And how can you go against the medical professionals when it comes to masking, comes to different vaccines and medicines? And so we were all told that we had to trust the medical professionals and that they were the heroes. And now the medical professionals, enough medical professionals are rejecting taking the vaccine.
Yeah.
That the federal government is looking at potentially trying to deny funding to hospital systems that are employing medical professionals who are not vaccinated. That's pretty amazing to me because, gosh, I thought we were supposed to trust the science and the people who would know best are the people actually treating people with COVID. And yet now, the federal government, the Biden administration, is looking at ways to try to punish medical systems where they're not forcibly vaccinating the medical personnel, the ones who presumably are the most risk of getting the disease.
Right.
That's incredible to me. It shows that there's the failure of the entire process and the desperation that the Biden administration is to keep this mandate and keep people under their thumb.
I would like to point to a few bright spots in this. The state of New Hampshire has a bill that was signed into law by Governor Sununu there. They're calling it the Medical Freedom Bill. And it ensures that people who choose not to get vaccinated cannot be kept out of any public spaces or public forums. And I was thrilled to see that. I went to college in Boston, and I have good friends from New Hampshire, and I've always loved their sort of fighting spirit that they have up there in New Hampshire. They're very different from the rest of New England, I think.
Well, you are the one person who escaped Harvard without being destroyed. So congratulations.
There's
on
a few
that.
of us.
But it's yes, that's New Hampshire. Live free or die state. So it is a different state, and it's good that Governor Sununu has taken that step. What we also have seen Ron DeSantis in Florida fighting the battle.
Fabulous.
And we've seen in the state of Texas the battle being enjoined. And one thing we can expect is that the federal government will, if they're going to target places, they're going to target Florida, and they're going to target Texas, and they're going to target Florida in particular because the Biden regime looks at Ron DeSantis as being a credible challenge for 2024, and they're going to do everything they can to diminish him and to attempt to attack his governance in Florida. And so there's going to be a real battle there. So if anybody out there is from Florida, it's probably a smart move to contact your state and local officials and really, kind of help them out, give them some good news. And by the way, one of the most amazing things about this petition, this email that we're having people send, over 650,000 emails have been sent.
Wow.
Already. 650,000 emails. We're putting this out again today.
Yeah, we have it in our description below. We have the link to this online petition. It's so easy. It takes less than a minute, and it's just a very straightforward email that gets sent to all of your lawmakers, again, at the federal, state, and local level, in just one or two sentences saying, I oppose vaccine mandates, and I ask you to oppose them as well. It's not complicated. It's not a sort of difficult to understand policy issue. This is very straightforward.
Just to emphasize how important this is, Canberra, Australia, which is the capital of Australia, one of the capital cities for one of the Australian states, had one case, a singular case of COVID within last week, and they shut down the entire city. They basically said they did a harsh lockdown on the entire city over one case. That's the place where these public health Nazis are going. They want to dictate all of our economic policy, all of our health choices by virtue of a singular case. And so the fact is, if one case can trigger that response in Australia, you have to guess that that's the same kind of mentality that will follow here unless we nip it in the bud now. We've put up with this for 18 months. We've flattened the curve. We've done everything they said. We've killed our economy for 6 months. We put people out of work. We shut down, the estimate's 30 to 40% of small businesses have been shut down based on this. We've gone the extra mile. And the fact of the matter is, we cannot allow the federal government or state and local governments to mandate that people get vaccines, to create vaccine passports, to create second-class citizens of anybody who is not vaccinated. We cannot allow this to occur because it will not end with this vaccine. Because once they are able to create the second-class citizen because you refuse a medical procedure, because you choose not to have a medical procedure done, it sets the tone and the standard that on virtually anything else, they can establish that same kind of compulsion. When Arnold Schwarzenegger says, "Screw your freedom," it's appalling. But he's not alone. He's reflecting the script that's been written by the left. And we, the people, have to stand up and just say no. If you feel like you should take a vaccine, if you feel like it's the right medical choice for you, do it. But let's not compel others who make the other choice to do something which the Biden administration admits millions of people in the healthcare profession are choosing that same choice to say no to the vaccine. I'm not taking a position on whether you should do it. I'm taking a position that it should be your choice and not Joe Biden's.
And I would add to that, Rick, here in Fairfax County, Virginia, where I live, we have over 70% adults are vaccinated against COVID. That was the goal that the Biden administration set out in May. They wanted 70% of all American adults to be vaccinated. And then he told us we could have our 4th of July get-togethers. So here in my county, we have reached that goal. And many, many communities across the country have met or exceeded that goal. And yet the CDC says that Fairfax County still has, quote, a substantial spread of COVID. So they have moved the goalpost. 70% clearly isn't working for what they're trying to achieve.
They're now saying 80 or 90%,
right,
is the goal.
And I mean, there's you're into statistics and polls and numbers. I mean, there's almost nothing where you reach a 90% of the population on anything.
It's a permanent. This is a permanent mark on your permanent record that the federal government will be taxing you. And one of the great things, just to talk about this action item, you were talking about the Fairfax County. We know just across just one county over in Loudoun County, there's a big dispute on the schools about what they're going to be doing. This petition, this email you're sending, will go to your local county commissioners. It'll go to your local mayor, your city council. It'll go to the people who fund the schools.
Yep.
And that way, you'll not only be talking to the federal officials, you'll not only be talking to state officials, you'll be talking to the very people who make the most important decisions because they affect your child, they affect your life directly. And that is why this is really, our effort is really geared towards a bottom-up approach. Every single person out there, one thing people miss, and this is really, really, really important, about 10 to 15% of the people vote in local elections. 65 to 70% of the people vote in federal elections. So you have about 5 times more impact, more power in your local elections as an individual than you do in a federal election. You have a capacity to know the candidates in local elections far better than you'll ever know a candidate in a federal election. And so you have power in your local elections. If your local officials aren't doing what you want, find somebody who will, recruit them to run or run yourself, and put together a team, a freedom team, because very few people can take over a local elected body with a concerted effort. And listen, we cannot allow people whose knee-jerk is to be oppressors, to take away freedom, to say screw your freedom, as Schwarzenegger said. We cannot allow those people to control the levers of power at any level of government. So if your local officials are not responding, you have a responsibility to make certain that you protect your children, you protect yourself, you protect your neighbors from those who would abuse your freedom by getting somebody else elected. And at the local level, you can do that with very few other people helping you out.
Rick, I really appreciate what you're saying, because I think that gets to the heart of what our organization, Americans for Limited Government, is about. We want to give you tools to fight back against big government. And we have never seen anything like this in the past 18 months during this pandemic. This has been a complete nightmare for people like us and you who want limited government, and we want maximum individual liberties and freedom. This is an unprecedented attack on those freedoms. And Arnold Schwarzenegger just really, as you said earlier, he reflects on what we're up against. And it's shocking. Like I said, he's somebody that I have long admired and really respect his work ethic. The fact that he came here, overcame a lot of odds to achieve his dreams, and he's always credited America as being a land of opportunity, certainly for him and millions around the world. So it's disheartening to see him attack the very freedoms that he came here, that he sought for, that allowed him to achieve his level of greatness.
One of the things that we found out is true, and it gets beat into our heads constantly, is that many of the people who have profited off of Americans who love their country and would put their country first on everything, who believe in individual freedom, who fly a flag in their front yard, who served in the military, served in the police forces, served their country in so many different ways, that the very people who have profited off of you and I, those are the people who actually, turns out, they hate us. They despise us. They think we're despicable. And the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger, whose movies, I would venture the left has not been the frequenters of most of his movies, and as a result, maybe they were, who knows. But the guess is that you and I are the people who tended to watch his movies, and he effectively just attacked you and I. So it's disappointing, but the left's script, nobody's immune from it. And that's the thing that kind of gets you. You have to understand that nobody's immune from the left script because we're all subjected to it. It takes guts to stand up to the narrative of the left. And that's why your local officials and your state officials have to hear from you, because it takes guts to stand up to this narrative. And the best way to give a politician guts is to let them know that the voters, the people who put them there, are expecting them to show them, to have them, to stand up and fight for freedom. And that's what this is about. And Catherine, you're 100% right. One of the things of values we have here is we're trying to provide you with the tools to engage you, to allow you to engage others, to allow you to just take your email list and forward this to your email list so others have an opportunity to engage as well. And this is an easy tool to be able to use for that purpose. And I would just encourage you to, you can email this YouTube video. You can email the link that's below and take it to, send it out to everybody. And in doing that, that will do more than virtually anything you can do to try to spread the word and stop this insanity. And we thank you very much for the efforts you've already made. We thank you for watching the video this long. If you're still with us this long into it, you are really, really somebody special. And I truly appreciate you hanging in. Spread the word, because we can't do it alone here in DC. Without you, we are fighting a dead, losing battle. So thank you very much for all you do, and I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.